Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the cheat sheet edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and just a reminder, programming note for all of our friends and fans that are out there. This is a quick hits, fast facts format of our show, just to give you some statistics and quick notes on this Sunday's upcoming game between the 5-7 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 8-4 Baltimore Ravens. So if you crave a little more in-depth analysis, I highly encourage you to check out yesterday's show with Believe Network's Daniel Wilcox of the Believe in Ravens podcast. Some great stories, not only back from when Daniel Wilcox played with Baltimore, but also some insights just from the other side and from a player. Really, really awesome. And once again, thank you to the folks at Believe and Daniel Wilcox as well for joining me on that program. Just a little bit of another quick note, folks. Got my hands on something here that would be a great Christmas gift. This actual episode is brought to you by Dubliner and the Dubliner Pittsburgh Steelers limited edition Irish whiskey. This is just a phenomenal package here to take a look at. If you're looking for something, a special gift for that person that has everything in Steelers Nation, I highly encourage you to head on over to DublinerWhiskey.com. You could go to the full URL. It's /US/Steelers-partnership if you want to take a look at all of this. And it discusses the deep Irish roots and the partnership between the Dubliner, the Dublin Liberties Distillery, home to Dubliner Irish whiskey, as well as, a little bit of homage to the city of Pittsburgh and Steelers Nation, and of course, the ties with the Rooney family through all the years. This is this is amazing. Like, just celebrating 90 seasons of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You could find this. Unfortunately, you're probably going to have to find this over in Pennsylvania, particularly even Western Pennsylvania. You can head on over. They got a map over on their website with all of the different places that this is available. And this is a limited batch release. It is a blend of perfectly balanced whiskeys, aged at least 3 years in the finest American bourbon casks, crafted for Steelers Nation by the Dublin Liberties Distillery, a proud partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, once again, check that out. It's a beautiful bottle, even all the way down to having the Steelers stripes right over on opening it right on the neck of the bottle there. I mean, this is just a beautiful thing. I don't even know, this is going to be something great to enjoy, maybe even a little pregame. Little adult beverage there. So check that out. That is just phenomenal. And thank you to the folks at Dubliner for hooking a guy up. I don't know otherwise how I may have gotten my hands on this thing there. It's available, sold out in some areas, so you don't want to delay. Go and pick up the rest of the stock that's out there. So jumping back to the task at hand, this is the Cheat Sheet Show. Once again, thank you for joining us wherever you may be watching or listening. The Pittsburgh Steelers head into Sunday's game, a 1 o'clock affair at Acrisure Stadium, hosting an AFC North rival that they have yet to play this season, the Baltimore Ravens, who are currently in the lead of the division. All eyes will be on this game because of the major news. Maybe he's only listed as doubtful for this game, but hasn't practiced all week. That is quarterback Lamar Jackson, a major key figure and a huge blow if he cannot go for the Baltimore Ravens. That will lead the way to, is he a second year man? I got to look this up now, but we know, inexperienced guy, Tyler Huntley. Yeah, I don't like just dumping on the unknown when it comes to quarterbacks. You just never know. Huntley got a lot of experience last season when Lamar Jackson went down, and Baltimore's season kind of went in the dumps, and it's looking like they're going to probably lean on him once again for Sunday's game. Huntley last year 1-3 as a starting quarterback, completed 64.9% of his passes for a little over 1,000 yards, 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He's not quite Lamar. He took 18 sacks on those 188 dropbacks. So he could be gotten to, and he could be forced to create turnovers. And they believe his QB rating. It's QBR. I hate QBR versus rating. Okay, so his rating last year was 76.6. He was 27-32 last week in relief of Lamar Jackson for 187 yards. He did have an interception. Took 2 sacks against Denver Broncos. They were able to eke out a win by a point, 10-9, in a very low-scoring affair. And just on that note, this game doesn't look like the bookies are seeing it much differently either. You've got, without Lamar being on the field, the over-under is 37. The Steelers are -2.5 at this one. Oh, man, I'll tell you, this is going to be some classic AFC North warfare here. These teams match up very well, and without Lamar being out there, he's an additional weapon. Not always having the best record against the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, but still somebody you got to respect. You got a rookie and Kenny Pickett on the other side, who the Ravens are going to want to rattle. Kenny has not thrown an interception. The Steelers haven't turned the ball over on offense since the bye week, and that reflects their recent turnaround with their record. So while the Steelers are 5-7 on a 5-win team, and the Ravens are an 8-win team, it's a tale of 2 seasons right now since the bye week. You've got the Baltimore Ravens thus far since the bye. Not averaging a whole lot of points here. They put up 13 in a win against the Carolina Panthers, 13-3. They had a 1-point loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars down in Jacksonville, and then came around last week to only scoring 10 points to the Denver Broncos 9. So they are 2-1 in that span. The Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, have only dropped the 1 game to a division rival, Cincinnati Bengals, who got their eyes on this one as they got their hands full with the Cleveland Browns team that has beaten Joe Burrow in every encounter they've had thus far since Burrow entered the league. Steelers are 3-1 since the bye with that 37-30 loss to the Bengals, and they've been able to muster a little bit more of offense with 20-24 and 19 points and some kind of, I'd say, tight games, right? Too many people think it's too tight, but it's not Minnesota Vikings tight, and Minnesota got a great record because they find ways to win that game, and you hear that now all of a sudden about the teams, them and Philadelphia. It's always about the worst whatever record team. We heard that with the Steelers ages ago during the COVID season. So the Steelers actually, believe it or not, they lead this all-time series against the Baltimore Ravens 32-24, with, of course, that January 9th end of season win in Baltimore last year in overtime, 16-13. At home, the Steelers last won 20-19. Remember John Harbaugh deciding to go for it with Lamar Jackson and TJ Watt in his face. So the Steelers lead all-time series 32-24. They lead the home slate 19-11, and away it's an even Steven 13 all. In the postseason, the Steelers are 3-1 against the Ravens, and the Steelers, I believe, if they won the past 4, is that correct? Let me double check and make sure that that is right. Yeah, NFL reporting, won the last 4. It's kind of hard to believe because you would think out of all of the teams that the Steelers in the AFC North might have a streak against, it wouldn't be the Ravens. So Ravens, once again, looking at the injury report, Lamar Jackson is the biggest name on the list so far. I'm going to pull this up for all of you to see wherever you may be. If you're watching, I'll try and read this off as best for you that catch the audio version of this program. On the Steelers slate, nobody is officially ruled out. You got a few questionables. Najee Harris, Chukwuma Okorafor, Chooks, Larry Ogunjobi, and Cam Hayward. Hayward was only a day of rest anyways. They have no status for the game. So once again, Najee, Chooks, and Larry O all good to go for that game, as is Cam Hayward. Listed as questionable, Malik Reed, TJ Watt, and Deontay Johnson. Watt dealing with a rib injury, and Johnson with a hip that just cropped up as of late. The Baltimore Ravens have like a list that goes beyond like scrolling the entire screen. So let's see if we can fit as much in here as possible. A bunch of days of rest. I'm just going to skip over all of those and just get down. We talked about Lamar Jackson being doubtful. Questionable status for Patrick McCarry, Marcus Peters, Delshon Phillips, Patrick Queen, Kristen Welch, and Kevin Zeitler. And I'd expect pretty much everybody on that list should be a go for this game. This is a big one. Ronnie Stanley did not practice on Friday, but he doesn't have a status for this game, so this might just be more of a day of rest to make sure that they have him available, as is the same Morgan Moses also got a day of rest. They gave a lot of rest to guys, Calais Campbell, Tristan Colon, Devin Duvernay, and Justin Houston. Marcus Peters was also a rest also, which was kind of like, okay, he got rest, he didn't practice 2 days, but so maybe that's why they list him as questionable. I hate the NFL thing. At least, they got rid of probable a few years ago, and you don't have to deal with that one any longer. Let's see what other news and notes we got. Of course, this one's being played in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, 159-92 and 16 years at the helm with the Pittsburgh Steelers. His counterpart, John Harbaugh, in his 15th season with the Baltimore Ravens. He's 145-92 overall. Isn't that just interesting? Both 92 losses, but no ties on Harbaugh's record. He is 13-15 against the Steelers, so a little bit on the losing side, but almost even, whereas Mike Tomlin is 16-14 all-time against the Baltimore Ravens. This particular contest, this one's going to air on CBS, so check it out locally, Pittsburgh. That's going to be KDKA. NFL Plus if you're in the local market, as well as Paramount Plus for your streaming coverage, or wherever else you might grab that, like a Hulu Live TV or YouTube TV. If you happen to be watching, it's going to be Kevin Harlan with the call, Trent Green with the color analysis, and Melanie Collins with your sideline reports. On satellite radio, you could hear the Steelers feed on Sirius 136, XM 230, and on the internet on 826. The Ravens are on 111, Sirius 111, XM 385, and on the internet at 802. Forgot to bring up the map, so if you're in the green, you're going to see the Steelers. That's most of Pennsylvania, except for, the whole forest area up there that pretends it's upstate New York. Through portions of West Virginia, and down through the Carolinas. But this is a little bit more of a diverse map than we've had in recent weeks. Usually this whole thing is just like one solid color. So despite there being a lot of teams still on a late bye week this week, there's a lot of different football games for folks to watch across the country. So make sure you fall into one of these areas as necessary. And if you need to catch this map or see it somewhere, we have it on SteelCityUnderground.com on the article version of this cheat sheet, as well as the source for it, complimentary of 506sports.com. Pittsburgh Steelers, let's see. Adrian Hill, referee for this game, calls about the fourth most penalties in the league. So he's yet another guy that, this could be really bumpy. This could be a rough game. We're going to see the Steelers at home for the first time in 2 weeks after back-to-back road wins, and a 19-16 win at Atlanta last week. I'd mentioned that the Ravens were also a winner last week, 10-9 against the Denver Broncos. Currently, the Steelers and Ravens, where they rank. Points scored per game, the Ravens are 12th overall with 23.8. The Steelers are 17.8, though. It should be noted the Steelers have done better on that end since the bye week. Steelers are currently averaging, I could do my math real quick, not in my head, of course, because that would be like, Steelers are at 23.25 right now since their bye week. And if we take a look at the Baltimore Ravens, they're going to average out somewhere about the same. Let's see. Well, maybe not. Ravens are now at 16.6 points per game since their bye week, which was a week later. So that's only 3 games to the Steelers' 4, which helps skew that a little bit more. But you could see there's some offensive struggles. And, of course, that's going to happen when you don't have Lamar Jackson on the field. He got dinged last week and pulled from the game. The Ravens, they allow the 9th most points defensively in the NFL at 19.7. The Steelers at 23.1 are the 19th ranked defense. Baltimore is 4th with a +6 takeaway differential, whereas the Steelers are 8th with a +3. Ravens 26th in the league, Passing yards per game, Steelers are 24th, actually ranked a little bit, just a smidge, 199 to 192, 7 more passing yards per average per game. It just shows you how much more focused the Ravens are as a run team. They are third in the NFL. They average 157 yards per game. That's 40 more than the Steelers do at a 117 average, which is good for 16th in the league. Defensively, these two teams, the Ravens are 25th against the pass. The Steelers are 28th against the pass. The Ravens are second against the run, and the Steelers are 7th against the run. But there's about 25 yards difference there with the Ravens average per game. 25 yards separates second and seventh place. But as you can see, 25-2 against 28-7, and then likewise on offense, 12-9 against 28-19. So the Steelers struggling a little bit more offensively. That's where you're going to get. I'm tempted to take the under on this game still. I don't know. We're going to see if there's any further news on Chris Boswell too. He was just recently activated or brought to practice in the window, the 21-day window. But for DeMarvin Leal last week, that was like instantly, boom, right back on the field. And this is a game where you're going to might have to count on these stellar kickers between Boswell and, of course, Justin Tucker on the other side of the field. So keep that in mind. Keep a look out for that one. I can't wait that long to put this show out. Unfortunately, that's like a late Saturday by 4 o'clock transaction wire type thing. And I want to get the news out to you before, like at least 24 hours before game time. Because otherwise, what kind of guy would I be? I got to get you the content, right? I gotta bring it to the people. I don't usually do weather reports on this particular show because it changes so much and I just don't trust these hacks. But I got to show you this. This is just, we'll pull it up a little bit bigger. Rain showers early with overcast skies later in the day, a high around 45 degrees, a little bit of wind, 50% chance of rain. This could literally be, if it rains in this game, this could be anyone's contest. It just makes the slugfest even worse, the war of attrition as it is. So if you end up going to Pittsburgh for this one, I'm packing the poncho. You got to stay warm and dry, which is the two worst combinations for this time of year in December. We're almost we're down to the wire when it comes to Christmas, right? We're 14, 2 weeks. Yeah. Maybe an extra day if my math is serving me correctly. So I hate wet and cold. I could deal with cold. I don't really like wet. But when you add wet and cold, it's absolutely the most miserable conditions for a football game. Pittsburgh Steelers led by Kenny Pickett. So far, Kenny Pickett's just shy of 1,800 yards passing on the season. He has 4 touchdown passes to 8 interceptions. And his counterpart, of course, on the other side of the field, Lamar Jackson will not be there. Lamar does lead the team with 22-42, 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Kenny's flanked by Najee Harris, who has 671 yards on the season, leading the Steelers with 4 rushing touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, also the leading rusher for the Baltimore Ravens with 764 yards. That's a 6.8 average, and he has 3 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Pat Freiermuth still leads the Pittsburgh Steelers in receiving. Freiermuth currently has 597 yards receiving on the season and 1 touchdown. That's just a tenth of a yard shy of a 12-yard average. Likewise, Mark Andrews, the other tight end on the other side of the field, also leads the Baltimore Ravens. He has 56 receptions for 654 yards, so 6 more catches than Pat Freiermuth does. He's at 11.7 yards per catch with 5 touchdowns on the season. And we'll see if they could get him going in this game as well. Yet another major name to keep an eye out for. Mark Andrews, favorite target usually of Lamar Jackson, but when you're also talking about a inexperienced young maybe quarterback, you're going to have to see if he finds his safety blanket. So again, we talk about a lot of this on the other show. If you have a chance, please check it out. Just Daniel Wilcox was just phenomenal. He was awesome. Sack leaders for these two teams defensively, they're led by Alex Highsmith for the Steelers with 10 sacks, Justin Houston with 9. Minka Fitzpatrick with his pick at the end of the game last week just jumped into the lead overall for the Pittsburgh Steelers with 4. Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Williams pair of guys in the secondary, in this Ravens secondary. They both are tied with 3 apiece for the Baltimore Ravens. And let's see, Matthew Wright currently kicking for the Steelers. We'll see if it's Chris Boswell, but like I said, he's 7-7, perfect on point after attempt, 12-14 from field goal range. Justin Tucker, 28-29 this season for the extra point attempts, 25 of 28 from field goal range, and that's because they'll let him kick it from 60. So I'm not necessarily sweating. It's like, oh, Justin Tucker missed a field goal from where? Like the other end zone? Dude's got a leg, right? Dude's got a leg. Some of the other just quick news and notes here too. Kenny Pickett last week, 197 yards and a touchdown for a career high 90.9 quarterback rating. He continues to improve from week to week to week to week. He has had his quarterback rating climb. Najee Harris ran for 86 yards last week. He has 90 plus all-purpose yards in 3 of his past 4 and a rushing touchdown in 2 of his past 3. Deontay Johnson's looking for his 3rd game in a row with 5+ catches. He had in the last home meeting between these games, of course, with Ben Roethlisberger, 8 for 105 and 2 touchdowns, so it was a big game for him. George Pickens looks to recover this week after having 2 games prior with 50+ receiving yards. He's still 4th amongst all rookie wide receivers with 512 receiving yards and 37 catches. Yeah, 37 touchdowns would be amazing, right, Joe? Whew, wake up, brother. Yeah, might as well. You know what? I'm going to show Connor Hayward there. He had his first career TD catch last week. We'll see if he continues to get going. Pat Freiermuth led the team with 76 receiving yards last week, 75 plus in 2 of the past 3. And he had 6 catches last year, or the last meeting in that overtime game. That was good for 53 yards, so he was a force. Cam Hayward with a sack last week. TJ Watt is always a force against the AFC North, always a force against Baltimore. He's looking for his 7th in a row against the Ravens with at least a half sack, and 5th in a row with a full sack, 3rd in a row with a forced fumble. That's what he's looking for. So he's had a couple of he has his own little streaks going. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, of course, I mentioned his 4th interception of the season last week. He had 7 tackles. He's had 7+ in each of the last 2 games. Pass deflection in 4 of the last 5. On the Ravens side, I wish I could just pull up Lamar Jackson's stats, but kind of irrelevant here. So let's talk about Tyler Huntley just a little bit more. Tyler Huntley in last week's game, 27-32, as mentioned, 187 yards passing. He rushed for another 41 and the game-winning touchdown as well. So you're going to have to keep an eye on him. He is still a mobile quarterback and elusive. That game-winning touchdown coming with 28 seconds left on the clock. So entirely 213 yards in his only career start against the Steelers. Last year, it was 141 in the air, 72 on the ground. Just a little bit. That was January 9th. Still same year, but different season, right? So I say last year. That's his most recent start, but he did get that action last week too. 50+ rush yards in 3 of his 4 career starts thus far. Gus Edwards, he's back. Definitely needed. They have a pair of running backs here. He has 50+ rush yards in 3 of 4 games this season. Kenyon Drake has a TD in 3 of his past 4 on the road. Mark Andrews, as just briefly mentioned a little bit ago, a major threat here. As always, against any team he's up against, he's looking for his 4th in a row with at least 50+ receiving yards. Last meeting, 8 catches for 85 yards. And he does well as well against the AFC North, 85+ receiving yards in 4 of his past 5 against division opponents. He's 2nd amongst all tight ends this season with 654 receiving yards, and he's tied for 2nd with 56 catches and those 5 touchdowns, so among the tops in the league. Also note, though, and this isn't to take away from Mark Andrews, but tight end has been just miserable this year for those of you who play fantasy football. Devin Duvernay had a career high 6 catches last week. He could be a dynamic player as well. Roquan Smith, who came over from the Chicago Bears, led the Ravens now with 11 tackles and 2 for a loss last week. He's looking for his 4th in a row with at least 7 tackles or more, and he has a tackle for loss in 2 of his past 3. So he's been a force. Odafe Owe had his 2nd sack of the season back in here last week, week 13. And Marlon Humphrey, he's looking for his third in a row with 6+ tackles and a sack. So they're going to send him on some DB blitzes. They're going to try and catch Kenny Pickett sleeping. They will come after you from all kinds of different directions. The Baltimore Ravens will. This looks like it's going to be a fun game, folks. Hopefully I didn't have a brain fart and miss any of the pertinent information that I like to get across to you, but I think that's pretty much it. I even got the weather forecast in this time. So once again, I'm going to pull up that map one more time for the TV folks, because this is must-see TV, but it's not going to be must-seen everywhere. Maybe part of that's a Tyler Huntley thing. I'm not sure. It's just a very odd 1 o'clock slate for the NFL where they don't have 4 or 6 teams aren't playing this particular week on the bye. Yeah, 6: Falcons, Packers, Saints, Bears, Colts, and Commanders. It's just wacky. I don't know. Late bye might help some of these teams. And it's not like any of the teams have a winning record here either. So I'm like, maybe they get a little bit of a late season surge. We know the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for it as well. This is a huge AFC North matchup, because it doesn't really matter if Cincinnati wins or loses and jumps into that first spot. In my opinion, the Steelers just got to get those dubs within a division. That's also an AFC conference win. They got to knock Baltimore down a little bit, and being at 6 wins at this point would be very nice. I'm not sure that anyone was expecting it. 6-7, climbing back to almost 500 with still some other winnable games on the schedule. We'll look forward to it from Acrisure, Heinz Field. That's what Kenny called it. Shout out once again to for the Dubliner Irish Whiskey Pittsburgh Steelers edition from the Dublin Liberties Distillery. I always say that wrong. I want to call them the Dubliner Distillery. This is Dublin Liberties Distillery. You will not miss this package if you head into the store. Steelers logos, black and gold, black and yellow. Yes, Wiz Khalifa is going to lead the Terrible Towel Twirl and also have a halftime. I heard halftime video, so he might not actually be performing at halftime for this game too. So black and yellow on my brain. Looking forward to it. Steelers Nation. That'll do for me. I'm a little bit over the top here with this particular episode. I think it's just because I didn't get to do a couple of my own singular rants with Daniel Wilcox. Check out that episode from yesterday, as well as check out the Dubliner Irish Whiskey, and that'll do it. My name's Joe Kuzma. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's go Steelers. Here we go. Sunday, 1 o'clock, Baltimore Ravens. Man, AFC North ball, nothing like it. Until next time, as we always do on this program, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.